Hey,
Is
Tommy.
that what?
audios. There we go. That's and boom. All right. Welcome to the Roaming Self podcast. We're back again. This time around, we've got Markota. I did say that right. Markota, yes?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Somebody a lot more interesting than us, that's for sure.
Most definitely. And we have brought her on. It's actually been something I've been wanting to do for a while. And finally got the gall to send a message. To my surprise, she answered. And here she is. And we are basically leaving this on to her. We want to pick her brain, get her thoughts. The only thing I'd like to say, one of the things that I'd like to look at quickly and get it out of the way, because I know so many people ask you these questions all the time. It's what you're known for. So first and foremost, I haven't found anything online where was the first appearance of Goth Right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not really sure. I don't want to be like, I made this, but I pretty much think I made it. Because there was a Goths for Trump thing. And then I kind of thought about like art right and goth right and put it out there. But it's like my Twitter, I actually deleted everything on my Twitter when I got this job at the Daily Caller in DC, because I wanted to make sure that I don't have anything on there that'll get them or me in trouble. So I just like deleted everything. So you might not see evidence of it going before like 2017 at some point, but it was definitely in use. And people have ascribed it to me and said, that's awesome. You started this. So I was like, cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. 2017, I would say 16, 17.
Okay. Yeah, because I did see there was one magazine cover that actually labeled you the queen of the goth right.
That's what they say. And that's cool. That's cool. It's better to have other people label you than label yourself. So I'm happy with that.
So now, considering that we're on another platform, mixer.com, and there are going to be people coming through here watching this that aren't familiar with who you are, what your story is, I do also kind of want to get that out of the way.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd like to talk specifically about how that went down and kind of what that was like to be outed for being a conservative,
Yeah.
How horrific of you, and how dare you have an opinion?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't want to like get too long-winded, so please stop me if I start doing that. But I've always been conservative in a sense. I'm first generation American. My mom's from Croatia, so they're very conservative out there, Roman Catholic. She's lived with communism, and so she's anti-communism because she's lived through it. And there was wars with Muslims and are Catholic and very nationalistic and stuff. So I was raised that way. But as a millennial, you do kind of start being like trying to branch out, and I'm from New York and whatever. So I had that route, but I was kind of like in the artsy scene, New York City. It was chill. Everyone knew that I was a Republican. I voted Republican. All my friends did, and they knew that. But it wasn't until the 2016 election where that became a defining line for them.
The difference for them was just because you dared to vote for Trump.
Yeah. I mean, I think that things were headed in that direction. And I think maybe under Obama, being a Republican was like, oh, we've got our silly Republican friend over there. But up until the point where there was serious competition in government, and that's when and I've seen things getting like worse and worse and worse. I don't know if you remember, but, I remember even during the Bush times, it was like Bush was the worst president in the world. And, not that he was that great, but definitely a neocon, but still, they were saying how he's racist and, he's the cause of all the problems and all this stuff. And I knew that it was like, give it time. They're going to change their tune. And here we are, the next Republican president, and he's even more racist and he's even more the cause of all the problems. So I feel like they just up the ante every time. So, but yeah, as far as the details go, yeah, people around me did know that I was a Republican, but my artwork never really revolved around. I was a performer, so call myself a performance artist. Did dabble in like the burlesque scene, but it's like I don't really like saying burlesque because it conjures up really corny, cringy kind of stuff. I liked being a little bit more avant-garde than like like cheesy. That's bad. And a lot of the burlesque scene was like feminist, fat, tattoos, just super cringy. And, I wasn't into that. I don't have tattoos and I like to show like beauty, and that's what like Greek and Roman sculptures are when you see them in museums, they're showing, the human form in a way of like, look at this prime species, look at the marvel of what God and humanity can achieve. So that's the kind of artwork I like to display, was like beauty and elegance and like the marvel of God's work and humanity. And so I felt like it was a bit different than all the other people who, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the performing scene, but they start getting real crazy nowadays, stuff like dressing up as nuns and dildoing each other on stage and like, all sorts of weird stuff.
Going more for shock value.
Yes, and that's exactly the difference, was that their artwork started to go more and more about like shock, and mine was like, honed in on, like I said, the beauty and that kind of stuff. So there was a definite difference between our works, but like it represented our ideals, on a deeper level. And I call myself Lady Alchemy, so I like to do alchemical symbolisms and Western hermetic traditions in my artwork. So there's a lot of symbolisms with that I would do, but they would again do a lot of like overtly political stuff, make Trump like a Nazi, do all this stuff, and it's just like, okay, yeah, okay, roll your eyes at it. And then I just kind of got really frustrated during the election, seeing all of the like stuff, we've all seen it on the Facebook during the election, what everyone was spewing and how they were talking. But I don't know about you guys, but in the New York City art scene, these are the most SJW extremes, feminist of the extremes, like proud of their abortion t-shirts kind of like women, you know what I mean? Like the most extreme. And so when they found out that I was keen on Trump, it created a problem for me in backstage in the theater. I had people fighting with me and saying, he's a racist. And it's like, okay, well, how is he a racist? Like, the Mexicans. I'm like, okay, illegals. And it's like, we're all illegals. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I do.
So this is what I'm dealing with. I get it. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's hard to have a two-way conversation when you got one side that's very entrenched like that.
Right. And I just saw things getting more and more volatile with me, and people yelling at me and calling me a bigot or whatever. And I felt very uncomfortable at work in my theater and stuff like that. And then it wasn't until the actual election that things really, really blew up, because, in New York, I don't know about you guys, but I thought that Trump was going to lose, but, I'd come back to work with my tail between my legs and go, it was fun. Like, right. Whatever, it was fun. But he won. And I was like, oh my God, like, oh my God, he won. So when he won, basically I was called by my theater and told that they're not going to need my services right now, and they'll let me know when they want me to come back to the theater, which was never. And then I had my agent texting me and saying, they're saying that, all the girls are demanding to, for me to drop you. They're saying you're a Nazi. They're refusing to work with you, work gigs that you're on. They're actually attacking me for even hiring you at all. Like, what is going on? And then Antifa wrote an article about including me. And then so all the girls started sending my agent the article, an Antifa blog, that hat calling me a Nazi and saying, they're sending me this. Like, what is this? What's
a blog.
Yeah, and that's what I had to explain to her. I was like, this is a blog. anyone can say anything. She's like, yeah, that's true. But like Martina or Lady Alchemy, this is really bad. Like what if clients see this stuff and, everyone's freaking out. Like I just can't book you. So I just kept getting dropped and dropped and dropped from everything. And they kept demanding. I mean, they would call people all around the country, all around the world and say, hey, Lady Alchemy, she's a Nazi racist bigot. Like, don't book her, I would get phone calls from people saying, hey, people called me and they were warning me about you, but like, I actually agree with you. I like Trump too, but like, this is crazy. Why are they like calling everyone that I'm like, that's what they're doing. So I was like trying to just keep my head above water and try to find other gigs. And when I did, they would find out what it was that I was on the roster, hunt it down, and demand that I get that they place me or that the show is canceled, get the producers to kind of shut it down. And, that's what they were doing.
So basically the left is taking away your livelihood.
Yes, they did. They were saying things like, let's get her, let's run her out of the scene. Let's run her out of New York. And I'm born and raised in New York. Let's get her out. And they won. I never imagined it. I never lived outside of New York. I've never wanted to live outside of New York. But after my career just getting like torn down, I did get a job offer to go to DC and work in media. So I was like, well, they won. They got me out of the industry and they got me out of New York, which I never thought that they would do. So you won. And then I go on to try to live my life and have this new life since they kind of ruined it. And, before this, my little sister came down with, who's 12 years younger than me, came down with, I don't know, has leukemia. I don't know if you can come down with leukemia, but she's fine now. In remission. But during this time is when it was like peak, like them trying to destroy my career. And I had no money. I had no opportunities. And I remember getting another gig. Like I found one gig and this was already open and out there. I had to go fund me for my little sister. I said, listen, I'm dealing with some really serious stuff. Like the political stuff can just take a seat. Like I'm dealing with some really serious stuff. And they still wanted to make sure that I had no income and ruin my job opportunities and everything. So I was like, you really can't just let me like just have my life. Like you won, I'm out of the theater. I don't have my agent, like I'm out, and you still want to make sure that my life is ruined. Antifa doxed my address. And then when I moved to DC and got this new job in media, they started communicating with left-wing press that were really eager to write about me now, this crazy burlesque dancer. There's an article by the Salon that says, I don't know, Daily Caller gone wild or Tucker Carlson got wild or something. And they were featuring that they hired me, this, burlesque, like what a degenerate, because the left are just such like they clearly don't like any degeneracy. So all that dildoing on stage is like, completely innocent compared to Lady Alchemy, who just, oh my God,
Voted for Trump, yeah.
Yeah, like they were just acting like I'm some sort of like whore when it was like, you do realize you guys literally do worship on stage. Like that was not like you guys dildo on stage. I didn't like, and now you're trying to act like, oh my God, Daily Caller hired this degenerate, It's like, what, really? You guys are the ones saying it? Salon, really? You wrote about how the, pedophilia is
right. I remember that
I mean?
article.
Really? Like Mr. Nicholson or whatever his name was, like,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, wow, you're really virtue signaling here. But anyway, yeah, they communicated with, they hunted down, or I don't know if the burlesque girls or whatever, how the communication happened, but then they started communicating with the press and talking about me and saying this and saying that. And they were definitely trying to ruin my second career in media to make sure my reputation was ruined. So I was like, okay, they got me out of the performing scene. You got me out of the city. I have to pick up and get another, life going on. And you want to ruin that. So when will you be happy? Okay. What if I get a job at Starbucks? Wait, I went from being a star, performing on stage, being on billboards and in magazines. Now I'm just a waitress, right?
Nasty Trump supporter couldn't work at Starbucks. Come on now.
Then you're gonna demand I shouldn't be working at Starbucks. So what do you want? Do you want me homeless? Do you want me dead? What do you want? So.
I got to tell you, as an American and a veteran, that really pisses me off that they're trying to silence your free speech. I mean, it's not even like you're saying anything abhorrent either. You know, it's not
I
like you're
didn't
standing
even
up there.
say anything, really. It was just they found out what my ideas were. My
Right.
ideas weren't the same as their ideas. But yeah, then it did become about free speech because I would go on Gavin's show and Gavin would invite me and I talked about what they did and what went on. And Gavin McGinnis,
Oh
how he
yeah.
says all sorts
Oh
of
yeah.
wild stuff,
Right.
So he says all these wild things, and I'm kind of like, oh my God, this comedian is like being absolutely ridiculous, but it's funny, whatever. And then they started clipping the pieces of him with me on his show and him saying completely ridiculous, crazy stuff. And then they would attack me and go, look at what she said was homophobic or transphobic. And I was like, he said it.
Guilt by
I just
association.
laughed.
Yeah.
So I can't even be in the same presence as someone that says something that you don't like. Really? Okay.
And that's the thing that we talk about a lot on the show is about how intolerant the left is when they claim to be the tolerant ones.
Right. Yeah, that was something I learned very quickly. It was really, really sad,
Mm-hmm. I mean, I try to keep it more. I don't want to say I'm center, but my whole basis is freedom of speech. That's my thing. There's things on the left I agree with. There's things on the right that I agree with. There's things on both that I disagree with.
Right.
So it's just kind of like,
yep,
where the chips fall, that's where I am.
Yeah, I don't really like to have like sides, like teams, or like be in a cult. I don't have a cultish mentality. So I definitely, call out things on the right as well if I disagree with it, so I really do appreciate that as well. I don't like when people have the cult-like mentality. I definitely am more of a right winger, because I've had these thoughts where I go, and I remember when all this was happening to me, I go, is this like, am I wrong? Like, are my beliefs wrong? Like, am I wrong about this? And then I start thinking about, and even now when I get pissed off at the right about things, and we can get into that if you want, but I get pissed off about plenty of the grifting and the dumb shit that goes on the right and the attention seeking stunts. But when I get pissed off about things, I go, yeah, but I can't agree with the left. I can't agree with this concept.
Yeah.
I can't agree with this SJW concept or this PC concept. No, I'm on the right. Like,
And I do actually want to get into the one thing that really sparked my interest is, so I first stumbled on you through the whole goth right hashtag. I found that by accident. Then I found you on Instagram. Then I started following you on there. And then there was one post out of all the out of everything, where there's just a little small comment about you being, like, not verbatim what you said, but basically being disillusioned with the right and the current state of it. Yeah. And that piqued my interest, because I don't want to say that I fully feel that, like, the right is falling down a rabbit hole that they're not going to be able to get out of, because I can see where a lot of people are coming from. It's a very skewed view, but like I can see it. Why? Where does the disillusionment come from?
Yeah, I mean, so it's like this bigger picture of, like, I, have always had these ideals, but I always felt alone in these ideals, right? And then my ideals ruined my career and my life, and I'm now even out of the country. So, out of all the left saying they're going to leave the country if Trump wins, I'm the one that voted for him and I had to leave, and it's like my life completely got ruined because of these ideals. And
I'd like to point out, none of those cowards actually left.
Yeah, exactly. And and then I just feel like there's aspects of the right that didn't embrace me, but then on top of that, they have embraced a lot of, like, grifting, and people, Trump is hanging out with people that didn't even vote for him, like Candace or Joy Villa or whatever. And it's just like, there's people that started kind of using this, like, I was attacked, right-wing victimhood for, like, attention points and, like, viral videos. And it, to me, it became like the Jussie Smollett of the right, where it's like, hold on. I was actually attacked. Like, I was actually had my life ruined, So for you to try to get some sort of victim points and, like, a viral video out of, like, purposefully trying to instigate, some putting out there for a viral video. And, you know, it just, I've seen things kind of like it's not what I panned out. It like what I thought would pan out. And it's just, it's not what I thought it would be. And there are times when I'm just like, was it all worth it? But I mean, like, what am I going to do? It's not like you know, I've always been on the right. Like, I've always been anti-left.
You can always go independent.
So it's like, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I haven't always voted Republican. I mean, I definitely liked Ron Paul at one point. You know, like I don't know. I definitely didn't vote at some points because I felt like I didn't really like the neocon thing either. But that's kind of why Trump, I think, won, was because he wasn't the typical Republican neocon. A lot of people that didn't vote for a while, or they were the libertarians, or they were independents that thought, or that, you know, they were for Bernie, but then, you know, got screwed over by Hillary. So all of us like kind of were like, yay, like this guy is not being the typical Republican. And it was like really exciting. But now I'm just seeing a lot of typical Republican behavior going on. And I'm seeing a lot of just like cringy, let's act like the left, but be on the right side of it kind of behavior. And
Absolutely.
so it kind of just gets me upset. And then I've become even more depressed now than I was when my career got ruined, because when my career got ruined, I had some hope. You know, I had hope about this movement. I had hope about, you know, a new career, and that hope's not there anymore. Now it's kind of like, you know what? So shit. Not sure it was worth it.
Well, you know, there's still glimmers of hope here and there. We were talking the other week about AOC and Ted Cruz were talking about coming together on a bill that would prevent congressmen from ever becoming lobbyists. So if somebody like AOC and Ted Cruz could agree on a bill, I mean, surely that's a sign of the apocalypse or something, right?
Right. Yeah. No.
But I mean, it provides a little bit of hope.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope that there is hope, because, you know, that's like that last demon in Pandora's box was taking away hope. So that's what makes us, you know, live for something, is hope. And that's where like the bit of depression came in, when I feel like there's no hope. That's like the worst thing ever.
There's so besides you, there's that I know of about 7 or 8 political commentators that have been completely destroyed by the left, and deplatformed. The worst of which, I guess I would have to say, would be Laura Loomer. I mean, she just got ripped apart. I followed her on Instagram, and then like a week later, like nothing, just bye, gone. Like, okay, what happened?
Yeah.
So with that being said, do you think that with your artwork and what you try to create, that do you still segregate your artwork from the politics, or do you try to make a point politically indirectly through the artwork?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because it was never political, but, you know, looking back on it, I think it did represent our right-wing ideals. For example, my costuming tended to be very like religious kind of looking. I had to have halos, or, you know, and flowing robes. And I've always loved in art history the way that they depict you know, saints and, you know, the Virgin Mary and stuff like that. You know, the way that the
glowing halo and all that.
And just the grandness of it, just the way that they seemed outerworldly. I wanted to like emulate that in real life. You know, what's better than being just so like grand? And that was what I wanted for Lady Alchemy. So I think those are definitely right-wing aesthetics, as well as I did something that's called sculpture dancing, where I love like the Greek and Roman sculptures in museums. So they always had these like elegant poses, you know, that was always like, so I would like move super slowly and just like do pose to pose, like ancient sculptures. So I think looking back, like, yeah, that kind of in a way was political, because it was our, you know, Western tradition aesthetics. So yeah, but it was not overtly political. I'm not a fan of like overtly political art. I think that there needs to be layers to things, and, you know, just like when the left does artwork that's just like very obviously like Orange Man bad, or like fuck Trump kind of artwork. It's like, oh, it's so one dimensional. You know, it's not.
Well, I think I was one of the very few people. What was her name? He dropped again. What was the name of that comedian that did the photo right after the election with the decapitated head of Trump? I can't even remember.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody was freaking out about that. I think I was like one of the only conservatives in my group that said, just let it be. If that's what she wants to do, she feels good doing that. You know, it's not like what Madonna did. Madonna outright made a call to action for people to go kill Donald Trump. You know, Kathy Griffin.
Right.
Griffin.
And I still can't believe neither of them got arrested. That was crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree with you, and that's why I was against Loomer rushing the stage at the Shakespeare thing, because as an artist that performs on stage, I mean, that's something the left would have done to me. I mean, they did anything they could to shut me down, and so I think they have the right to do their performance, you know, whatever it was, like, do it. But I think what we should do to counter it is have our own works where we can, you know.
Well, you counter speech with speech.
How do we?
Yeah.
Right, how do we do that when every time somebody like yourself tries to speak, you get shut down by thousands of screaming SJWs?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think the solution is there?
Well, I mean, what they tried to do was shut me down by making sure that I wasn't booked and that I wasn't employed there. I mean, I've been waiting. It's been a few years since all this happened and the election happened. And I talk about this all the time, but I haven't had, you know, anyone really come forth. And, you know, I want to do my own events. We could do our own shows. You know, we do plenty of rallies. Well, I'm sick of rallies. It's been years and years of rallies. Like, okay, well, you know, let's do our own plays. Let's do our own. That's why I want to work on this Metacog TV thing, you know, a TV channel on D Live. Is like, there's a lot of great artists that are out there that do a lot of really cool creative works. And it's not always political. Sometimes there are hints of things or whatever, but there are other people like me that really don't have that voice because the left won't give it to them, even if their work is really good. Even if their work doesn't have anything to do with politics, they still won't be given a chance. So that's what we need to do. I mean, why don't we kind of promote these kinds of concepts a little bit more? I would love to do a show, you know, do an event, but it takes more than me showing up in a costume to do it. I mean, it takes a team of people. We're putting on an event is really, really a lot of work. So, you know, we should be doing more of that to counter the left.
I agree.
You know, if they want to show up and shut it down, that's one thing, but I don't think we necessarily have to promote it as a political thing. You know, like we just make an event and you can book Lady Alchemy. You know, and then when the left try to call you and go, Lady Alchemy is a racist, bigot, Nazi, you'll be like, yeah, okay, bye, and then you still book me. You know,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, that's the whole thing about this. It's really truly frightening to me. Is they really are trying to police thought now.
Yeah.
If you're a Trump supporter, you're evil, and therefore we have to segregate you from the rest of society. So when we're getting into thought crimes, I mean, you know, it's become awfully Orwellian, and it scares the shit out of me as somebody who violently loves this country.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I didn't imagine that this would be a thing. Like, I mean, you guys probably remember, like at least a decade or two ago, it was like, I mean, you could disagree politically. I mean, I had no idea that just simply voting for a Republican was going to cause this much damage in my life. And, you know, me and my husband have to be standing around being afraid to make connections with neighbors or expose who we are, you know, what our real names are. And what if they find out? It's like, what? I'm just a Republican. What's the big deal? Like, really?
Yeah, it's frightening. And for those of you who are listening, and think about that. In the year 2019, here we have an American woman who's afraid to live in her own country because of who she voted for. That's the sole beginning and end of her crimes, quote unquote, is she voted for somebody who the rest of the country didn't like, apparently.
Yeah, and I mean, you would think that I mean, when initially my agent was kind of saying, oh, they're saying you're a Nazi, this, I was like, what affiliation do I have with any like neo-Nazi group? Because there are neo-Nazi groups. There have been skinheads. There are groups. Like, am I affiliated with any of these groups? No. Okay. So to me, it was really shocking that one could just say something. And then that makes it real. And then they put your address out there saying that you were like a Nazi. I was like, That's so dangerous. You're saying that I'm this horrible, horrible thing, and here's her address. Thanks a lot. Like, now I'm afraid to answer my door.
Yeah, they're hoping somebody's going to get violent with you. And that to me is something else that we've talked about a little bit here. Is the left likes to use this Nazi imagery to demonize everybody they don't agree with. So we see that they're calling the detention centers on the border concentration camps.
Yep.
You know, we talked about.
They're changing definitions. It's like they make something that's really not that big of a deal seem like literal Nazis. Then like they're really shifting the goalpost there.
Yeah, and that's just it. We've talked about that. Maybe that by the dictionary definition, these are concentration camps, but we know damn well they're not sending little Mexican kids to a gas chamber to die. They're not the same thing as Nazi concentration camps, but they're using that word as the imagery to indelibly tie Republicans to Nazis. I think the left is doing this on purpose. They're trying to make anybody in the GOP look like Adolf Hitler.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really, really dangerous actually too, because, you know, for two reasons. I mean, for example, someone like me who I hung out with the leftist of the left of the world, of the country. I mean, my friends were drag queens and gays and, you know, few trans people, and I was pretty accepting, and I thought I was socially liberal, but like fiscally conservative. But you know, I come to realize that the socially liberal stuff was like actually getting more and more insane exponentially really fast. So I ended up becoming like, no, I don't agree with that like social concept. That's a bit much. So I think I actually was socially conservative in a sense, but I never realized it because I always felt like I was very accepting, didn't agree with things, but accepting of things. And I think that's a Christian way as well, you know, like you hate the sin, not the sinner. So I liked these people for who they were, but I didn't have to agree with them politically or their lifestyle. And that was fine. But the way that they treated me and what happened to me and the way that they stabbed me in the back actually pushed me further right than I originally was. Because of the way that they did this and the way that they called me a Nazi and the way that they did everything. Well, now I'm like pretty far. I'm not saying, okay, the whole far right thing is like a scary term now, but yeah, I'm farther right than I was before. So
Kevin and I were talking about that yesterday, actually, Martina, and we were saying how, you know, the political climate is pushing people far left and far right. And it's driving conflict, and it's driving the physical conflicts we see in places like Oregon, where you have Proud Boys beating up Antifa guys, you know?
Right. Yeah. And then there's like another aspect of it that's extremely dangerous too, is that when they're labeling just regular, decent, you know, folk that they disagree with as Nazis, I mean, now
then it loses its meaning. Yeah.
Right. And like, you know, I understand that the, you know, actual Nazis are not really like a huge population or anything, but like there are extremes on all sides. So there are some actual neo-Nazis, and there are people that, you know, there have been a few incidences that involve, you know, some extremists. So when they are muddying the waters with regular, you know, conservative people, it's making it more dangerous because now you're like, you know, confusing regular middle America people on what extremism is. And there is extremism. So
and there's extremism on the left. The left keeps telling the right to denounce the Nazis, which we do and have. I'd like to see them denounce the communists.
Right. And that's the thing, is that their extremism is far more prevalent and it's accepted.
Right.
You know, you can call someone a commie all day long and no one bats an eye.
Right.
Communism killed way more than Nazism or anything. So no one bats an eye at that. And it's like, okay, what about the gulags? You know what I mean? Like why is no one batting an eye? And they're openly communist. I mean, you'll talk to any of us that are on the right and we will be like, no, not a Nazi. Like, we're not a Nazi. Like, I dare you to try to find someone that's going to be like, I'm a Nazi. And that's going to be those few extremist individuals that are very, very rare. But on the left, I mean, you know, you can find a commie all day long, say, yeah, I'm a communist. Sure.
You know, it's funny you mention that too. I got a friend who teaches history, and in his classroom he has flags from all over the world, all different eras. Two of the flags he has up is an old Soviet era flag, the Soviet Union, and the Imperial Japanese flag. And everybody was asking him, how come you don't have the Nazi flag to go with it if you're going to do World War II? And the obvious answer is because Nazis, but it's okay to hang the flag of another fascist country and a communist country up, and you're right. The communists killed millions more than the Nazis ever did.
Yep. Like a lot of millions.
Right. So, it's hysterical that one form of hate is accepted and the others aren't, like you said.
Yeah. And it gets really crazy when they feel justified in their hate, because they are very violent, they're very volatile, they're very angry, and it was shocking to me to see that they felt like they were justified. I mean, in my case in particular, the stuff that I've read about myself in these like on Facebook, and what the girls were saying in groups and in posts that they made about me, warning about this evil burlesque Nazi. It was just the way that they were talking was so just violent and exclusionary and okay with it, that it was justified because I'm a terrible person for my beliefs. And
I think we really started seeing that when the first guy got punched by the Antifa guy. That
yeah,
I forget who his name
Richard
was.
Spencer.
Thank you, Richard Spencer. When he got punched on camera, I think
agree.
that's when the tide turned.
That set the precedent. Yeah,
it did.
And it became this thing of like punch a Nazi is and it's great and it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us, before the show, you were talking to us about some of the other stuff you're doing, and you mentioned a comic. Can you talk about that?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, yeah, I mean, like I tried getting into the whole like political scene, and I mean, it's just not me. I think that a lot of people have a lot to do that can contribute. That's not necessarily activism or political commentary. The left, how they took over the culture was through the Long March into the institutions. It was a really slow thing. Now we can do both ways. We can do the Long March, which would be like the antibiotics, slowly, curing the disease, and we can like do some laser beams and kind of do something really instantly to kind of kill the disease. So whatever works for you, that's fine. But I think we shouldn't forget about the Long March and kind of do what the left did with that. So, if you are into being a teacher, I think you should go and become a teacher, get into the universities, start changing the universities back to being conservative. Hollywood during the golden age was Republican. So we get, let's get back in there, be the Mel Gibsons, infiltrate, get in there, and then make some really good content and subverse. And my way is through the arts as well. So I'm an artist. That's the best way that I can do it. And there's something called Comicsgate. I'm not sure if you've heard about Comicsgate, but it's kind of like Gamergate. So there was like, are you familiar with Gamergate?
The whole Gamergate controversy. I remember reading about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not a big gamer, but it's similar. So it was like, the SJW started complaining about stuff in games, that it was like sexualizing women, or like, I don't know, like just the whole inclusiveness bullshit of the game.
If I remember properly, there was a female reporter who was saying stuff like that, and then a bunch of gamers started attacking her for those opinions, and they carried it too far, were threatening rape and this and that and the other, and so it became a whole big thing. And so now all gamers getting painted with this huge misogynistic brush.
Right. Yeah, I really don't know how like the Gamergate. So I'm not a gamer. I haven't played a game since the 90s, but
I am, and that's about what I know about it.
Okay. Yeah, so it's something similar in the comic book industry, where it's like comic books in the 80s and 90s and before. I mean, I remember like the 90s ones, Witchblade and Gen 13 and all that stuff.
Nice.
Just they were voluptuous and sexy, Fathom, all that, and I looked up to them as a young girl, being like, that's beautiful, that's like a woman, I want to be like that, and the SJW started taking things like even
women should be voluptuous,
right? They should be feminine, right? And and they were healthy feminine. They had those thighs and those hips,
and they weren't real thin. Yes,
yeah, they were not skinny. And no, but they make what is it? There's like a few that really pissed me off. But there was what is it called? No, there's She-Ra. Is it She-Ra? The Princess of Power. Yeah.
Yeah.
there's stuff where they
Yeah,
will.
that's from like the 70s. Wow.
Yeah, and like they took her, and you know how she was beautiful. They took her, and it looks like a little boy. They
Yeah.
made her look like a little boy, like absolutely no shape. Looks, it was created by like a lesbian that actually looked like the character. They turned it into like that lesbian-looking woman. So short hair, you know, like the hair and the like flat chest, like no shape, no distinguishable feminine features in the face, and it was like it would be like turning Jem, you know, Jem and the holograms into just the most like unsexy, like boyish looking kind of. It's like no, she was like sexy and beautiful. Like, why are you doing that? So that's kind of what they started doing, and they made like Spider-Man half black, half Latino and gay. They had like gay weddings in like Marvel universes. They had
Oh my God,
Thor.
J.K. Rowling, all of a sudden saying all of her characters were gay.
Right. Yeah. They had Thor become a woman. So they just started doing like SJW stuff with the comic books, and a lot of like comic book fans were really like pissed off about it, and they're just like, "Screw this, we're not happy about this." And there were some comic book pros that like actually were creators that worked at Marvel and DC that were against it, and you know they had the same reaction that I got in my industry, and they were kind of outcasted, but they kind of took their. Excuse me, I was drinking a seltzer water. They took all, you know, they started making their own content and using Indiegogo as a platform to sell their comics, and all their fans really, really support it. So it kind of created a thing. And some of them have made over $500,000, over $250,000. I mean, cumulatively, they've made a few $1,000,000. So it rivals Marvel and DC as they're tanking in the comic book industry. Comicsgate is kind of like doing a thing. So there's definitely a scene that's happening. So it's ironic that the one place that we're kicking SJW butt in is in the arts. It's in the comic book industry. And I've always seen Lady Alchemy as a comic book character because I wear costumes and I'm out in the middle of the night and I'm like athletic. Yeah. So I always wanted it to be a comic book character. So if anything happened for good out of all this bullshit, it was that like Comicsgate and this whole thing happened around the same time where it just made perfect sense. My like best friend is a illustrator in LA, professional illustrator, and he said, "Let's do this. Let's make a comic book." So I turned Lady Alchemy. She still lives. She still lives through comic book.
Yeah.
And so I have an Indiegogo campaign, and we've raised like 42,000. So it's
Wow.
it's doing good. So that's what I'm working on.
I would love to see that. That'd be great.
I had the pleasure of actually seeing a
guys.
page from it on your YouTube stream when you're talking to the guy that is apparently making it.
Yeah. I have I got like shirts. There's
Here we go.
Merch,
Nice.
you know?
Oh wow, look at that.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
So yeah, I'll send you guys some stuff. I got a bunch of stickers. There's all sorts of fun stuff. Let me get these stickers out. Got big posters, and you know, the comic book itself is, you know, we're working on it.
Nice.
So
That's really neat.
thanks. Yeah. So I think it's important for, you know, us to get out there and make content and keep pushing and do it any way you can. I mean, if you're not an artist, then, you know, do it any way you can. If you're a teacher, get your tenure, secure your job position, and, you know, teach the kids the right way.
You know, they're taking that away. I actually teach middle school.
Oh, nice.
And they're taking that away from people. My county, for example, I came in and got something called personal service contract, which is not quite tenure, but close. Basically, I have to be rehired year to year. Wow. And then a few years ago, they started making all new hires come in on annual contract, meaning the principal can get rid of for any reason.
Right.
And so teachers are really afraid to talk about what they feel and what they think and things like that. They're worried.
Yeah, I studied at NYU to be a math teacher. I was going to be a teacher as well. That's why that was my second example. And I always said that I was like, nah, I'd be like fired because I would be trying to do some like Socrates type shit and teach them the ways of the world, like instead of just sticking to my one curriculum that you're supposed to stick to. But
yeah, I teach science, and we get off in the weeds. We get off in the weeds quite a bit because science will lead to discussions on things like evolution, and then the kids have questions about religion, and before you know it, we're talking about society, and so we get off in the weeds.
Huh. Yeah, you have to really maneuver that conversation probably.
It's rough, especially with sixth graders, you know. I mean, they're talking about 10, 11-year-olds. So
yeah. Yeah, exactly. 12-year-olds. God.
yeah, but you'd be surprised. These kids, they have some pretty deep thoughts. They tend to parrot what they hear from their parents at home politically. But once you get to talking about them and start presenting both sides of an argument, they can be pretty deep about, you know, how they think the world ought to be.
Right, and that's important, especially at that age, to kind of, you know, implant something. You know, I know you have to be careful and whatever, but you can definitely say things the right way that'll give them that little seed of like,
Honestly,
you know?
I found the easiest way to do that is just to say, here's both sides. You make up your own mind. I'm not going to judge you either way, you know, and just teach them to think independently. And if you can do that and show them that you're open to reason, then when the other side starts screaming, oh, you're an evil Nazi, they can say, well, no, I just had a really reasonable discussion with that guy.
Yeah, that's great. That's so fantastic. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, it's not necessarily everyone being an activist. It's not about, you know, going out and wearing your MAGA hat and saying, you know, and it was fun. Don't get me wrong. It was really fun during 2016 to do that. But I think to make a really big impact and difference is doing that, exactly what you're doing. You know, it is that, and that's how the left won, you know. And we shouldn't focus so much on, you know, what's going to get us that viral video, because that's really just preaching to the choir, honestly. Oh my God. So like England doesn't do like, they don't do screens. And so like, they don't even do dryers. They don't even have like drying machine. Like they hang their clothes dry. Like it's 1800. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear.
Yeah, you can.
Yes,
like
you can swear.
Like they hang their clothes dry like it's 1800. So like I have the windows like cracked just like slightly, and it's nighttime, and I have the lights on. Goddamn moths come in here. It freaked me out. Sorry about that.
You could see it. You could see it on camera.
No. No. Ah! Gross.
Funny you mentioned that. There was some guy, he had a car accident because he has some phobia of moths, and a moth got inside of his car when he was driving on the interstate.
Oh my
I
God.
had a bad car accident up here.
No, I don't have a phobia of them, but like I think about it too hard. They're like right there. They're gross, but I can see them try to get in too. I don't know what the hell's wrong with the UK, man. Get some dryers. Why do I have to wait all day to dry my clothes? Ridiculous.
Oh, down here in Mexico, you get these moths that are like that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no. That I would have a phobia of. Yeah. No, I've seen a really big moth hiking in New York before, and we were like, what the hell is that? Me and my brothers were like, what is that? And I swear to God, the thing hissed and turned its neck. Like,
It hissed.
I swear to God, it was giant.
I think my worst, and this is going to reflect badly on the Army, but screw it. Stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, the barracks I was in were like 40 years old when I was in them by the time I moved in. Matter of fact, and they're still in service today. They're mobilizing reservists to the same ass barracks. But anyway, giant roaches. And you'd be sitting on the crapper, and these roaches would come in and be like, you done with that? You know, I need it. Yep, I'm getting out, man. Let that roach have that toilet. They were huge.
Are you done with that? I need
They
it.
would hiss at you and charge you.
Yeah, no, like swear to God, this thing hissed. Like I'm not even just saying that. Like it made a sound. It was like we were like, yeah. Being in New York too, we have. Oh man, there's cockroaches. Yeah. And I had a mouse in my apartment run up my leg when I was wearing a skirt one time.
Oh.
Yep. Was pissed about that. And then the rats on the street, I think one ran over my foot one time. I was like, yeah, a rat just stepped over my foot. That happened. Yeah, fun stuff. But anyway, like I was saying, it's really important to do stuff like what you're doing. It's not going to get you like a ton of Twitter followers. It's not going to make you famous. It's just that one interaction that you have with that child for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? That's what's making the big difference, because doing those viral videos and trying to get some attention and make a good tweet, you're really just preaching to the choir.
Well, I think that's the biggest problem that's happening right now is the right is starting to kind of reflect the left. It's like it's a victim culture all of itself, you know, just on the other side of things. And it's becoming something that's overly popular to do to get attention, and people aren't looking at the point of what they're trying to do. They're just looking at the attention they're trying to get. And it's like what's supposed to be happening is completely lost in translation because you're only worried about the numbers.
Yep. And I think that's sometimes it's not as glamorous. You get out there and you just, you have that interaction with the child and you could see them think and go, hmm, okay. Like that is such a huge difference.
Hmm.
That's what we need to be doing on a bigger scale. Like whichever way you do it. I mean, if you're a lawyer, I mean, like, great. Like, or if you're thinking about getting into law, like, yeah, be the lawyer because you know what? We need you. I need you. There's people like us that need you,
Hmm.
like,
And Kevin and I
how,
have talked about this a few times. We just need to keep talking to each other.
yeah,
I could sit down and talk to a diehard communist and debate all day long as they're
I,
willing to have a debate in good faith.
I agree.
But when you start off a conversation by saying things like, nobody needs an AR-15 for any reason and they should all be outlawed, you can't have a debate when you take a
Yeah.
position like that at the beginning of the debate.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, I'm not into the same old like talking points or whatever's like trending on the internet. Like, I tried to stay away. I don't even care what's going on with this like soccer team business. Like, I don't care. I don't like
oh, the
like
ladies
the
soccer team,
lesbians or
yeah.
something. I was like, I don't care. I don't know. I don't want like I'm not. That's not my fight. I think it's stupid. Whatever. But I did, on my timeline. I think she was like on some. I don't know if it was CNN. I think it was with Anderson Cooper or something. And I just caught it for a few seconds, and then it just like moved past. But she was saying something about like if you could say something to the president, like what you say, and it was like you're like divisive, like I don't know, you're excluding people, like you exclude this gender and this race or whatever, and that's exactly kind of the rhetoric that is like, I mean, first of all, it's just really eye rolling. It's like, oh my god, really, are we still like in this 2016 talking points while Trump is out there being like, oh, well, unemployment rate of blacks is so great, and I love like gays and this and that. It's like, okay, we're really gonna still say that he's like that. Okay, I think even the right is sick of how inclusive he's being.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Right.
so just like that's really annoying.
Well,
But that is the kind of talking, the dialogue that is really annoying. It's not dialogue that's really annoying because it's just like you're saying something about someone and that's the way it is, and it's the end of the story. You're not actually having a
and if you
conversation.
disagree, you're a Nazi and I should punch you.
Right. It's like you're not even having a conversation. You're
Are you
just.
familiar with the show The Handmaid's Tale?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen
Okay.
it. Is it on
So,
Netflix or something?
Hulu, yeah, fantastic show. And the premise basically is the birth rate falls to such low levels that it triggers a
Hmm.
civil war in America, and
Wow.
America gets set up as a religious patriarchy that uses women as sex slaves to repopulate. And it's a great show based on a book. But
Hmm.
you see these women showing up at protests now, and these costumes that the handmaids wear, this all red costume with the white hat, looks
Oh,
kind
I
of like
have
a nuts
seen
outfit.
that. Oh,
Yes. So they're implying that because Trump's in the White House, we've turned into this religious patriarchy that is oppressing women to that level. See, that's the kind of rhetoric I'm talking about. You can't have a discussion with somebody like that who
yeah.
truly believes that that's where we're at in this day and age.
Okay, excuse me. I know so many women in New York City that are like single, independent women, and they don't need men. They were telling me backstage in the theater. Sorry, I just drank again. Excuse me, so unladylike, but at least I don't make noise. It's just like whimpers, my burps are like little whimpers.
That's right. I'm going
Uh,
to pour some more honey meat here.
oh, nice. Jealous. Um, yeah, they were saying to me backstage, and this is before I met my husband and before any of the political stuff really went off. But this is again my thinking, even though I was in New York, I was a performer, I was, yeah, sure, doing like degenerate stuff or whatever. I just had this ideology and I felt alone because it's so hard to date in New York City. The men just wanted to be perpetual frat boys and bang different girls every week. And then the girls had a similar mindset where I remember saying backstage, I'm, reaching 30. I really need to find a guy, like I really want to have kids. I want to, get married. Like this is like, not that like I want to do that, but it was like, this is what I'm going to need to do. Like I'm going to need to have kids. There's a certain time limit. I need to have kids soon. Like I need to meet a guy soon because, that's going to
Clock
need a
is
few
ticking.
years for that to happen. You know what I mean? Like I would love to find a guy. And I remember a performer saying like, you don't need men. You don't need kids. Men are just like toys to have fun with. You know what I mean? That's the way that women think. So it's like at least these independent women in New York, single and independent, powerful women in New York, think. So it's just like bizarre that they can then suddenly act like that there's some sort of victims of the patriarchy. It's like, well, I thought you're like independent women that don't need men. The men are sex slaves. You're kind of like making them the sex slave here.
Right. Objectifying the men. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kevin and I we talk about this all the time. It's one of those things that makes us nuts. Because you just cannot have a conversation with somebody whose default starting position is so far extreme that they're not willing to talk to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to definitely know who you're talking to, and there are definitely some reasonable people, and I know that the right will be like, nope, all leftists are absolutely ridiculous and terrible. It's like, you know what? Sometimes you can talk to someone. Sometimes you can't change their mind, but they still adore you anyway for who you are. So
I mean, I've still had decent conversations with people on the left. There's a friend of mine that I play games with. He's a gay Satanist. He proudly labels that out into the world, so that's why I say that. We have had some very in-depth discussions. The most recent being was the new Spider-Man movie, and my absolute disgust to the fact that Mary Jane's not a redhead.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just wrong.
Understandable.
And then his argument is like, well, there's so many different Spider-Verses, you never know. They might just be inventing another one. It's like, yeah, on the backs of PC culture.
Yeah, you can't do that.
So, yeah, I have had decent conversations with people on the left that don't take my opinion personally, that understand that my opinions on particular things aren't there to force them into thinking a certain way or them to force me to think a certain way. It's a conversation. It's over. Now we move on to the next thing.
See, but there's the problem. It's ideas versus the person. If I say abortion is bad, any person who believes in abortion takes that as you're an evil person because you believe in abortion. Well, that isn't what I said.
But they'll do it the opposite way around, where they go, oh, you believe in this, you're a bad person.
That too.
They do that to us, but I don't think that, I don't do that to other people. And yeah, I've had something similar too, where it's like I've had a gay friend of mine. I'm always in his music videos. He's a performer, and he's like, I want you in my music video. I was like, are you sure? You know what's going on with me, right? Like, that everyone in our scene hates me. Like, and it's like, I don't care. You're my friend. Like, you're a good person, and you're always in my music videos. So what? Like, who's better to be in a music video about being persecuted for your beliefs than you right now? I was like, okay.
There you go.
Sure, I'll do it. Thanks, man. He doesn't agree with me politically, but like, he laughed at Gavin's comment that he said that I got, shunned for, and he was like, it was really funny, and I was like, thank you, right? And then I had someone else that messaged me on Instagram and sent like a still of me being in like I don't know, I was in the Ajit Pai Ajit Pai video, this like meme video, and I was a Daily Caller or whatever. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but
I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, that's how some people know me. That's the biggest thing the media has written about me, is that they all lied about me, said that I was a Pizzagator, which is not true. I was just talking about some child sex stuff that is real that went on. So they tried to label me as a conspiracy theorist to ruin my media career, and everyone, like Vanity Fair, BuzzFeed, like literally every media outlet. Joy Reid was on MSNBC on TV bringing up my name, saying that I work at the Daily Caller and I'm the head lead investigator of Pizzagate, apparently. So anyway, so it all got started because I was in this thing with Ajit Pai, who's the head of the FCC, during the whole net neutrality thing. So they were trying to think, how do we take him down? Oh, who else is in this video? Who is she? Do we have any dirt on her? Oh, well, we can kind of twist things, and she said this, and she's done this. So, let's twist it and say that she's a Pizzagate conspiracy theorist, because that'll ruin her reputation, which means his reputation being associated to her is bad. That's how they work. So that happened, and so someone sent me a screen cap of like that video, and I'm like, have like a cigarette in my mouth, and I'm just like dancing, and I was like, yeah, that's me. I was like, wait a minute, and then I look at the profile, and I was like, like that girl's name, like, hey, is that you? You know, she used to take photographs of me. She would follow me around to all my gigs. She'd be my like assistant / photographer. We were very, very close. And she's like, hey, yeah, it's me. And I saw on her profile that she's working at New York Times. And I was like, huh, you're working at New York Times? She's like, yeah, I came across this. And I was like, is that you? And I was like, yeah, that's me. And I was like, did you hear what happened to me? And she's like, no. And it's like, okay, well, and I broke it down, like everything that happened. Obviously, she works at New York Times. I think she's even a lesbian, total leftist. And I was like, do you hate me? And she's just like, no, I don't hate you. She's like, you're a nice person. You're a great person. You're nice. You like, I don't agree with you. You know, we totally disagree. Like, she hates Trump and stuff, but it's like, I know you. You're fine.
See, and that's the problem. I think most people today are really incapable of that. My very best friend, Keith, I love this guy. He's seriously talking about voting for Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the one hand, I want to slap him, but on the other hand, he's my friend and I love him, and he's an American and he's got his right to vote for who he wants to vote. So, you know, am I going to give him shit for it? Absolutely. Am I going to continue to game with him and work with him and eat lunch with him and all that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not going to throw away a friendship because of who he votes for. That's just stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's important we don't become like the left. So we got to definitely hate the sin, not the sinner. You know what I mean?
That's right. We need to be the tolerant party. They keep claiming to be the tolerant ones, but obviously they are.
Well, I mean, we talked about this before, though, James. So what I was talking about, what I mentioned before about like kind of like understanding the perspective of where people are coming from. I think it comes down to the concept you can only beat a dog so much before it bites you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's kind of what's happening, right? Is it from everything that I've seen, everything that I've been through, you know, which is nowhere compared to, you know, what you went through, Martina. Like, I'm not even going to try to draw lines there. But, you know,
I'll live.
Basically what, you know, happens is you get these people, we're trying to have a conversation, at least a lot of us are, and then something new comes up, and then something new comes up, and then another thing's attacked, and then another thing's attacked, and it gets to a point you're just like, what the fuck? I mean, where are you going to fucking stop?
Right.
Where is the line? And so I can understand, I don't agree with, but I can understand the desperation and the current, like the actual reactive nature of people right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how about to give this a little bit of balance? Why don't we talk for a minute about what the right does that makes us nuts? That makes us less appealing to the left, or makes the left unable to talk to us because of something the right said or did. I mean, what kinds of things are those?
Yeah, I mean, like, this is kind of, you know, honestly, I've definitely exhausted my hate for the left. Like, most of the time I don't even bother with that. I find the conversation, the fight, boring, let's say, because it's just so predictable. But there's definitely issues on the right, and I want to make sure that I'm not being like a cultish team player. And
which is why I bring it up, because
Kevin
and I really believe in presenting both sides, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely complain about the right a lot. I've expressed that I don't like the whole, you know, the Jesse Smollett of the right type situation where it's like, let's figure out how to become a professional victim.
Okay, wait, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because that's twice you mentioned Jesse Smollett, and I find that whole case hysterical on his face. So, since you're famous for a hashtag, I want to put this out there. I've been trying to get a hashtag trending called "Don't Drop the Sandwich," because during the attack, he never dropped his Subway sandwich. So I've been trying to get Subway to pick up Jesse Smollett as their new spokesman since Jared is in prison for using the hashtag "Don't Drop the Sandwich."
Oh my God. Okay, I'm in. I'll try to work that with you.
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Martina.
I'll work that with you. No, I don't even know what I'm saying. Just like there's.
You're talking about what the right does.
Right. So it's like there's people that kind of want to exploit the whole Trump's, you know, Trump supporters get attacked, which I'm not saying they don't. They do. I've had my life ruined over it. There's definitely people that have been physically attacked over it. It happens. Just like, yes, hate crimes do exist. They exist, but a lot of times they are also, you know, exploiting doing like hoaxes and exploiting that fact. So yeah, sure, sometimes hate crimes exist. Not saying they don't. Definitely Trump supporters get attacked, but when people try to exploit that and do it for attention, I think it's really annoying, and I think it makes people that are genuinely attacked not as believed. Definitely by regular folk or the left. They'll roll their eyes and go, "Oh, there we go, more snowflakes on the right, pretending to be victims when all this stuff." So that's really annoying. I don't know. I was really annoyed by the Trump summit thing.
I was going to ask you about that, actually. I was waiting for a moment to ask you about it. Go ahead. I want to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I was saying it on my last night, and it was just like, so I was streaming last night when it was happening, and I caught a little bit before I went on, and I was just like, man, okay, so it's like annoying because screw everyone that was invited, man. They all sucked. Everyone that was invited sucks. But no offense if you were invited. You too. But it was just kind of like, okay, bunch of like grifters, like cool. And then what did I hear? I heard it was like, oh, the economy's doing so great. Oh, the black unemployment's doing so great, and Latinos and women and blah blah blah. And again, that's fine and all, but it just seems like the same old talking point that is like very like campaigny, and it's just like, yeah, okay, like we've heard this like a million times, like this is nothing like new, but like what about the white folk? What about white men? You know what I mean? Like that's why people voted for you, is because white men felt disenfranchised, and here you are pandering to the left and being like, who's more inclusive than us? We're inclusive. We're diverse. We're diverse. It's like, okay, are we being like the left now? Like, what is this shit? And then it's like, just the same old thing. And then it's like, oh, and then something. Pocahontas waits for the laugh, waits for the laugh. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, this shit's old. This is old material, dude. Like, come on. Like, it's not. Let's make shit happen. Start making actual real moves. Stop just kind of regurgitating your like little funny shticks. It's not funny anymore.
Well, I think at this point, President Trump thinks that he can just coast.
Yeah.
And I think he thinks he can coast because the left is eating itself. But if he doesn't put in at least some work, they're gonna surprise him.
Yeah, people want the wall. People want something to happen, and I think it's definitely a little bit of like, for example, the whole black unemployment and Latinos and women. It's a bit pandering to the left because we're being called bigots and this and that so much. We've definitely, and I did it at first too, is like you try to prove like, no, I'm not. Look, this is my black friend. This is my, and it's like you're never gonna win the left over. So like work on the base that did vote for you and what they want out of you. Stop trying to pander to what the left is calling you, because they're not voting for you and they're never going to give you that break. So enough, like move on to the white males for a second, 2 seconds. You could at least acknowledge them in your speech. And then there was like the Pocahontas thing, and then it turned into like him talking about 2020, and it was like 2020 is really important. The 2020 election is really, and it's like, okay, now here's the campaigning for 2020. So I don't know. It's a bit disappointing. Like, of course, who else am I going to vote for? I'm not going to vote for a Democrat, and whatever. So if I'm in the country, I'll like, I guess, vote for him. But I'm a bit upset with Trump and like that whole scene, and just like who he surrounds himself around, and stuff like that. But as far as like the individuals and people and the like, okay, so there's like the right wing snowflakes, right? So we complain.
I'm really disturbed by the fact he apparently is pals with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, he definitely was. I think the Epstein thing kind of is really this big network of Hollywood, Bill Clinton, Trump, like everyone was like friends with
Clinton,
him.
Real quick, for those who don't know, Epstein is the billionaire who's been in the news for child sex stuff, and he had a plane they called the Lolita Express. He used to fly out to his own private island, where he has pled guilty to having sex with underage girls, and Bill Clinton flew on that plane 27 times, folks.
Without his Secret Service.
Sometimes without his Secret Service, yes. And Clinton's trying to claim that he only was out a couple times, never without a Secret Service, this and that and the other. But obviously, Clinton was also fucking and raping underage girls. So,
Well, I mean, he even did it in the Oval Office. So, I mean, not the underage part, but like he definitely liked younger, women, and would definitely was a flanger and all that, But yeah, I mean, like Trump has definitely always liked women as well. So,
Right, and I'm certainly not trying to
yeah,
imply that Trump also was on Orgy Island or whatever, but just the fact that he was even friendly with somebody like that was a little distressing to me.
yeah, and like everyone knew because like he's had these cases for so long. I knew about this. Like this is one of the reasons I was able to the Pizzagate conspiracy theories because this is the stuff I was talking about. I knew about Epstein. I knew about all that stuff. Like everyone knew about this for a long. How do
See,
I, who have never met him before, know about this? And like Trump didn't know
and
about it.
you just mentioned Pizzagate again, and here's the thing: that's what really pisses me off about the right too is they make up shit like Pizzagate when they have stuff like Epstein on a silver platter right in front of them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, don't try to chase down Obama's birth certificate. Let's go after
Right.
him on his issues, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of dumb stuff. I think the whole Q thing is retarded.
Oh my God, that's based out of my hometown here in Florida, Martina.
Really?
The founders of that whole QAnon thing right here in this town.
You're not a Q person, are you?
No, no. But I see those idiots driving around town with their QAnon stickers on their van and everything.
No. Yeah, stuff like that makes us look bad.
It really does.
Stuff like even when we had they called him the MAGA bomber. What is it? Like that guy. It's like stuff like that trying to act like, oh, it was a Democrat plant. Like everything doesn't have to be a conspiracy theory. We can have like some crazies on our side.
Mm-hmm.
We can totally admit and say, dude was crazy.
Yeah.
Sucks that he was one of us, but he was crazy. So I don't like turning everything into a conspiracy theory. I don't think that makes us look good at all.
No, not at all. I mean, I think it's come down to a point where it's basically keep having platforms like this to have discussions, keep having artists like you to create things to talk about, and kind of keep that circle moving as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
And get as many people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely think it's something that we need to also, my issue is that we need to learn how to work together. I feel like a lot of people in the scene kind of step on each other so that they can get ahead individually, but we need to be able to work together. And that being said, I do criticize other figures and other people if I disagree with them, because I don't like, we have to stick together because we're on the same team. No, I don't have to like you just because we're on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I'm saying.
Tribalism, yeah.
Yeah, but there is an aspect of like climbing the ladder, type of thing. And hi, yeah. And everyone's kind of looking for their own individual success. And like you said, it's kind of like stuff like this where we can work together. And I have an artist doing my stuff who is, just like me, and then we hire someone to print out our stuff who does it's the Faction. They're the ones that do like the billboards in LA. They changed like the billboards to like the NPC Bill Maher or whatever. I don't know if you've seen that kind of stuff. So they're the ones that like printed my stickers and my posters. So it's like I'm putting money into their pockets. They're helping me. Like it's very mutual, relationship. So I think we definitely need to do stuff like that where we help each other out.
I definitely agree with that. So there's one other random thing. I already know your answer, but I want to hear you say it in person. Sweatpants and sandals.
Oh my God. Well, how do you know my answer to this?
I like I said, I did my research, but I just want to hear you say in person.
Did you see my Carl Langford video that I did? Yeah. Okay. So you did. Yeah. So Carl, Carl Langford, he died. R.I.P. Fashion designer. I think he's German or some shit. He such a cool goth legend, man. He was just like total goth right. He's like the king of goth right. And he has a quote. I mean, he has lots of quotes that are hilarious. He has some very anti-Me Too quotes. He has quotes about Merkel and
Merkel.
Yeah, he has. I mean, his quotes are so fantastic. It's like the typical sassy, like completely non-PC kind of comments. It's so funny. But he also has a quote about sweatpants, wearing sweatpants. I think sweatpants and sandals. Yeah. He said he's physically allergic to sandals. And he said that if you have sweatpants, it's just like it's a sign that it means that you've given up on life. But put that shit together, man. Woo. It's I'm not a fan of sweatpants and sandals.
Kevin, I got to give you kudos on your research there, man. That was great. That's some obscure shit to pull out.
Yeah, especially like people that went to I don't know when you guys went to college, but like at least a decade or so ago when I went, early 2000s.
Oh shit, I'm old.
Early 2000s for me too.
Yeah,
I was early 90s for me.
Okay, yeah, the early 2000s, and yeah, I don't know about the 90s. I think the 90s people actually got dressed when they got out of bed and walked out of their dorm. But in the early
you didn't see people going to class in pajamas. Absolutely.
Yeah, in the early 2000s, it was a thing where people went to class in sweatpants and sandals, and it was just for me a huge sign of disrespect to the institution, to the teacher themselves. It's like, I mean, come on, you can't even just like put clothes on when you go to like a class. Ridiculous.
Okay, I have to fess up.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, confession time. So when I was becoming a teacher, because I used to work in IT, I didn't have a degree in education. So I went through an alternative certification program that had education courses and whatnot. Huh. And they forced us to go to school over spring break, which really pissed me off because that was my week off, you know? And so I told the teacher, who I didn't like anyway, because she reminded me a lot of my mother-in-law. She looked like her. She sounded like her. She was bossy and bitchy like her. Barbara, if you're out there, I do love you, but damn, you drove me nuts. I told her I was going to class in my pajamas because that's what I wore at home and my day off. And she said, you better not or I'll flunk you out. I showed up in my PJs.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She yelled at me for a minute, but she let me stay.
Okay, well, I have a confession to make.
Okay, see? Confession time.
No. So I am someone that like, okay, more of these goddamn flying bugs from these. Okay. No, so what I'm someone that, I mean, especially being a performer, I do the whole stage makeup, have your hair done, look presentable. Like I'm all about that. So anytime I've ever been like on camera or anything like that, I do an interview. I mean, it is like 3 a.m. right now, and I have my full face done. Like I do it. But
we appreciate you being here with us too, by the way, this late.
No, it's fine. I'm always up. I'm on like New York time all the time anyway. But once the camera comes off and the stream is done, you better believe I put my hair up, I take the makeup off, and the bra comes off, and I'm just like complete like bum stat glasses come on, I'm like completely like bum status, and I am like that around the house like all the time, and even I'll go to the grocery store like that. And it was so bad because and my husband's actually a really proper like British bloke, so he'll wear like he's always in a suit, like he wears like proper like man's clothes like all the time, like a proper like suit, not like a tie all the time. Yeah, he wears a tie regularly, but like not at the house. He'll just put like a suit jacket and like a shirt on or whatever, and he's like, oh, like we have to go to the store, let's go to the store, and he's like looking like a dapper man. And I'm just like, can I go like this? Like, I want to go like this. And he's like, no, he gets like mad. And I'm like, no, I'm going like this. So one time I was wearing a full on like sweatsuit outfit, like gray sweater, gray sweatpants, like no bra, just like, like hair up, looking like a mess, glasses on. And I'm at the grocery store and I see someone keeps looking at me like aisle to aisle. I don't think much of it. I'm like, whatever. And then he comes up to me and goes, excuse me, like, are you Martina Markota? And I was like, yeah. And it's like, oh, I watch like your videos and blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, fuck.
What a good way to meet a fan.
I was like, I swear to God, I look like how I look on camera. I just, yeah. I swear when I put makeup on, I look like me. And he's like, no, it's fine. I was like, oh my God, how did you even recognize me?
Yeah, it's amazing.
No, when I was in college, I used college as like a a fashion show. I was very into
Same.
like dressing a very particular way. But back then, I was weird back then. I did the full face makeup. You know, I was very grunge, industrial goth. But I had to fit a certain way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it couldn't be all like baggy and everything. It had like nice tight fitted shirt, but fishnet underneath, and then then I got older and lazy. So
yeah. I mean, I think my look gets more refined, but I'm definitely like, all right, cameras off, taking this all off.
Time to relax.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll be honest. I'm in my pajamas right now. So, I mean, I'm all about comfort when I'm off work.
I love it. No,
I just put on a nice jersey for the show.
A nice jersey. It works. Well, I mean, that's okay. So on my end, that's all I got. James, you got anything else you want to pick her brain about?
Nothing off the top of my head. I mean, I'd love to hear Martina just go off on something for a minute. I'm sure you got a rant somewhere there, right?
Probably. I go off a lot for some reason. I don't know. Every time I stream, I'm like, I don't know what to talk about. And then I was on for like 4 hours yesterday. I was like, I don't even know what to talk. I just started bitching about all sorts of stuff.
You're pulling up Twitter and
oh god, this fucking thing. Oh yeah. Okay, so I think you caught it towards the tail end when I was really bitching about shit.
Yeah, you were really getting into it.
I was bitching about like Benny Johnson and stuff. Yeah.
Like you had this face on you, like you were about ready to just the rage quit the stream.
Oh my god, yeah. I was probably just like.
Yep, exactly, just like that. Like disappointed and pissed all at the same time.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's kind of how I feel about the right now. It's just super cringe. It's really bad. I mean, I was bringing up someone's like, artwork or performance, song, whatever, and it was what I was complaining about with the left when they did the like anti-Trump performances and artwork and everything's just like overt. It was like the same cringe, but on the right. It's like, I don't need to hear a song about freedom and Alex Jones and, all it. It's like, no, it's dumb. Like, just make good art.
Mm-hmm.
Just make good music. Like, that's what you need to do. Like, and I think, again, making music like that and doing content like that is really just pandering to our own side so you get, like, more fame and attention.
Mm-hmm.
Echo chambers.
If you make really good artwork, you're now reaching other people.
Mm-hmm.
You're now being able to have some sort of connection with other people that aren't on the right. And so if your music isn't good, then I guess, you can have a shtick and make it all about right-wing stuff. Yeah. Like, cool.
What did you think about, I don't know if you've seen this, the documentary, I guess you could call it a documentary. You Can't Watch This. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
It's basically
I know of it, but I'm not going to comment on too much about that, but the people that made that is the whole like Lauren Southern drama stuff, right?
Yeah.
Do you know about this stuff? Yeah. And I know those guys. They're British guys.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to say too much because I do know them, but they are wrapped up in some drama and controversy, so it's very taboo. But I haven't seen it. I mean, do you have any 2 cents about the actual contents of it?
I think
they're very good.
I think it was
kind of well done.
Yeah, I think it was pretty well put together.
They're very, very good filmmakers. I mean, they're gay, so they've got the aesthetics. And that's been my issue with the right too, is that they don't focus on aesthetics. I mean, they'll do a video where it's like, hey guys, and they're just like in their bedroom and you could see like a fucking crappy wall of something and like, you know what I mean? It's like, you didn't think about being on camera before you got on camera? Like, what the hell is this? So like my issue is, or they're in a car, when they do the car videos. Like, hey guys, so, and I'm like, this is bad aesthetics, man. Think about it. Make something good. If you're a girl, like, come on, you're a girl. Make it look cool. So my issue is aesthetics on the right all the time. So those guys are actually very, very good. They're gay, so their aesthetics are really good. they're very good filmmakers, but yeah, there's a bit of drama wrapped up into them anyway. So it's
I'm
just kind of
familiar.
like,
I'm familiar. I mean, it took.
yeah.
I had to process it for a second, but I remember exactly what you're talking about. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't praise them too much because then you're praising like, you know, people that have collaborated with, you know, the Antifa sorts. So
mhm.
you got to be careful, but then it's like I don't want to say that they're absolute terrible because then it's like, well, you know, give credit where credit's due. Their work is very good. And also, you know, I do know who they are personally. Not that I'm like friends with them, but you know, I see them time to time. So, you know.
I mean, I picked it up. What sparked my interest with it was Gavin. So I saw a little preview with him in it. Really kind of sparked me. Picked it up, watched it. It really made me feel bad for Gavin. It really like I was like, damn. I was like,
it's crazy what people are going through. Period, and not just conservatives. The fact that they deplatformed Alex Jones and Louis Farrakhan. I hate those guys. I think they're idiots, but they didn't deserve to be deplatformed any more than anybody else did.
Yeah, I mean, what's that saying? It's like spotlight is the best disinfectant or something. It's like, I mean, everyone should be able to kind of have bad ideas and put it out there. Like, okay, then everyone can see a bad idea and call them out and be like, that's retarded.
Absolutely. That you know, and Louis Farrakhan's my perfect example. The guy's an anti-Semite on top of being a Muslim. He's just a scumbag. Some of the shit he says. I detest that guy with every fiber of my being. But he should still be allowed to speak. He's a fucking American, man. He should be allowed to say what he wants to say, even if it is bullshit.
Yeah.
So deplatforming people is I don't know, that kind of stuff just really hurts me to my core because I did serve, and I served so that everybody would have their rights. You know, I gave up my own constitutional rights so that you guys had yours.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it gets to me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rant.
No. If we all rant for like 15 minutes, then another hour has gone by. So
that's true. Well, there's my rant.
I'm laying off the rants this evening. I get a bit heated. It's just I don't like what I guess I would say, just to put it, oversimplifying it, is injustice. Is like what I feel is like being unjust to people. Right. Like what it doesn't matter. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. If you're being mistreated, and I don't like it. And when I see it, like I used to love social media. I find like on the weekends now I completely avoid Twitter and Instagram, like because every time I go on, there's something that pisses me off.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too. And what's really annoying too is that I feel like I can't even say anything without getting attacked. It's like I could say the sky is blue, and there'll be people that are like,
no, it's purple.
Rah! You know, it's like, oh my God, can you just chill? Like, can I? And yeah, no, I find myself, and I have so many multiple accounts because I always have like a Lady Alchemy one, and then I have a Martina one. So I really separate like the politics and the art. And, you know, honestly, sometimes I then go to my Martina one gets like popping more because it's like politics and I have more followers and like all this stuff. And then it's like, sometimes just too much. And then I go, you know what? I'm going on the Lady Alchemy one, and it's all art stuff. And it's like so much chiller. And I'm like, oh man, sometimes it's really fun to just get away from the Martina account and I just go on my art account. This is great. This is good. I like it.
But Martina, there are millions of us that would love to tell you, you just keep saying whatever the fuck you want to say anytime you want to say it.
Thank you.
We did that. We served so that you had the right. Don't feel, and we haven't been in your shoes. I don't know what it's like to be doxxed and attacked and driven from the home and all that, but please don't ever stop speaking your truth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could. And it's not something that like I ran around trying to like make a big stink about. It was just unfortunate that I had an opinion and people found out what my beliefs were and made it a big deal and did that to me. So it was just like really messed up because it wasn't even, I was like one of those people that was like trying to get into a fight with a leftist and debate them. It was like, I wasn't doing that at all. It was very, very private, and I made. So the thing
you
is,
weren't looking for the fight.
I wasn't looking for the fight, and they really hunted it down and made a big deal about it. And the thing that I did too is that, like, so I hit like 30 and around the election and before the election in July. And then so I remember thinking, okay, I see all this stuff going on and like all this SJW talk on social media. And like, I was really, really good at just not getting into the fights on social media. I would see a post that would piss me off, and I would have to just go, "Ugh," and scroll through. I didn't engage, because I was like, I know these people. This is my friend. What they said is incredibly stupid. I have to just scroll through. It's not worth the fight with this friend. Oh, I work with this person. Like, it was just, I would see the most incredible like stuff and just not say anything. And I was like, I don't think that's healthy. There are times where it's just like really unhealthy to have to hold something in so much. And the only outlet that I had was just watching YouTube videos. So, I was like, listen, I'm 30 years old, and the only thing that I have to my name is Lady Alchemy. My entire identity was Lady Alchemy. I responded, you called me Lady Alchemy, Lady, hey Alchemy, like that was my name. And there were people, the theater that I worked in, no one knew my real name. No one knew that my name was Martina. I was Lady Alchemy. That was my name. That was my stage name. That's who I was, and that was my identity. And if you Google Lady Alchemy, that was who I was. And if you Googled Martina Markota, nothing. It was like I said, you know what? I'm 30 years old. I have nothing under my real name, and I am not able to express myself. So why don't I use my real name to be able to express myself? And so I started creating all the Martina accounts and doing stuff under my real name as a way of saying, I don't want anyone to know. I don't want to get involved. I'm not going to be, picking fights with people. I just want to express myself out there in the world, and I'll have a whole different name to do it. And they found out and made it a big deal and made sure that they connected it. They essentially doxed Lady Alchemy, because when they found out what I was up to and what I was doing under my real name, they purposefully include both names. They go Lady Alchemy, aka Martina Markota, as a way of
right. And I just want to I want to jump in real quick and say what a big deal that is, because I know how real these alternate personas can be for performers. Like you said, going by the stage name all the time and things like that. I know that's a real part of your personality that somebody took.
Thank you for getting that. Yeah. Thank you for understanding that. And because I feel like people on the right don't really get and that's kind of what bothers me too, is that so when this happened to me, because I was an artist, because I did burlesque, I think people just kind of don't take it seriously. They just kind of brush it off. But they don't understand that this is my livelihood. This is my profession that I did for over a decade. This is what I do. This was my identity. This was everything to me. So I feel like people kind of don't really get it. They just kind of brush it off like, oh, some burlesque dancer, stripper, and it's like, no, like I created.
No, and I've seen some of your stuff. It's not even close to that. I've watched some of it.
Thank you. But yeah, it was a big deal. So when they were trying to connect the Lady Alchemy and the Martina, that was a really big deal. I mean, again, there's other performers out there that I've worked with for a decade, and I don't know their real name. We didn't know each other's real names. It was like, that was how I knew them. And it was a respect thing. It's kind of like drag queens too, where it's
and the right doesn't get that, I think, because they have a hard time understanding that sort of a relationship.
Right. Yeah. And so when the left were like doxing my Lady Alchemy, like you say, that is a big deal. Like for them to out who my real identity is like really messed up. Like they were trying to do that purposefully.
Yeah, they wanted to destroy both halves of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's very similar to streaming, actually. We create personifications surrounding a theme or an idea or a concept that we try to project.
Right.
So, for example, like on the podcast, I just roll with Kevin, which is my name. But I actually have another channel, and on this platform, I will forever be known as Mr. Malice. So I completely understand how having a different personification, it kind of starts as an extension and then very gradually becomes part of the identity.
Well, especially when you spend half your life living as that person too.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just, I don't know. Lady Alchemy was everything. That's why I was like, she still lives through the comic book, and
yeah,
so
you get some swag. I will absolutely rock some of those stickers on my truck.
Well,
hell yeah. We'll send you some stuff, please.
the thing is like, so one of the other things that have, like, I always found interesting, like, about you specifically, was exactly that part of you, was that kind of dual personification that you had. That you tried to have this one side that was completely focused on the art. This is, creativity. You'd never actually talked about what the point was. You, like a true artist, you let other people deduce what they saw from what you were creating. And then this side of you, the Martina Markota, the political aspect. And I looked at it and I said, how horrible must it be to have to split yourself into two people in a hopes to survive?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some people, I've had some like, I don't want to say weird. I mean, I'm weird. Weird is not a bad thing, but I've had some weird, I don't know, maybe like fundamental Christians like try to tell me that I'm like, I mean, aside from the alchemy kind of stuff, I don't know, that it's like almost like evil, or like that I have some sort of issue trying to like separate my like identities. And I was like,
okay, but those are the key words: fundamentalist
yeah,
Christians.
yeah,
Most Christians are not, because I'm
no,
Lutheran.
I know. No, I know.
Yeah.
I was raised. I'm Catholic, but I don't, not like I go to church or anything. But yeah, no, I love my faith and tradition. Jesus is awesome. I love my tradition.
It's always the fundamentalists of anybody.
Yeah,
The rest of us.
and that's why I made the distinction. It was like it's like some, like those weird fundamentalist types that are read too much into things. I mean, I've had people be like, "Oh, like look at," and they'll pull like 4 images of my Lady Alchemy stuff and be like, "You're into satanic stuff," like blah blah blah. I was like, you pulled 4 images and made a conspiracy theory out of those 4 images, when like I have thousands and thousands and thousands of images that span multiple decades, and you pulled 4 and made some sort of like, she covered her eye. Look, she's Illuminati.
But I mean,
I was like, I have thousands of images that
Well,
span
that's
decades.
really no more ridiculous than the fact that you're a Nazi because you voted for Trump.
Right. And so I don't know. So sometimes people really just like don't get it, and then I think that like splitting my personality is like this weird thing that I have like this like psychological like no, everyone has like I don't know. Like you can be a father and a son and a brother, and like you don't talk the same way to your parents that you do to like your children or to your buddies, your pals when you're drinking. Like you have different like aspects of you. So that's just kind of what it is. Like I have multiple aspects that make up who Martina is. I am I'm an artist. I like the artsy stuff, but I studied math, so I'm like a math, like science nerd. I like my right-wing politics. Like there's just like different aspects about me. I like to cook. Like, there's like different things about me that make up who I am. So it's fun to be able to explore all those avenues if possible.
Well, I mean, never limiting yourself to like one point of access. Yeah.
I can't imagine a life just being one thing over and over again every day. Like it's crazy.
And as a science teacher, I got to say it's amazing that you're a science and math nerd, and I wish more people were.
Yeah, I know, and that's what we need. We definitely need more.
Oh,
of that.
Absolutely, we need engineers.
Yes, yeah. You know what? Maybe I'll just go back and become an engineer.
Listen, I preach that to my students. We need engineers, nurses, and teachers. That's what this country needs.
Yeah, and speaking of on that point is that I call the left biology deniers. So they like to say we're like science deniers. Right. So I was like, hold up, you're biology deniers.
They are.
You're totally anti-science right now. Like you are making up some weird.
Listen, I saw it on Twitter. There was an article that came out that scientists have shown that there's developmental differences very, very early between male and female in the brain. Okay. Immediately they were attacking those scientists for, promoting hate speech because it's promoting a difference in the genders.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. And so they're definitely the science deniers today. And if you tried to even start to even question, researching something just for the sake of, because that's how science is, you have to question and research every angle possible. They'll start attacking you if you start kind of questioning and researching something that is against their beliefs, which is just so anti-science.
It is. It is. And for those of you out there who aren't familiar with science, the person making the claim is responsible for providing the evidence, not the other way around. Your feelings do not make you correct.
Yeah.
So, that kind of tangentially, we were talking before the show, and I'd love to have you talk about it for our viewers real quick. That video I saw on YouTube where you were talking about the 8-year-old who was doing the drag queen performance in the gay club and how inappropriate that was and why it was inappropriate.
Yeah. No, so with the performing scene, and like I said, I was friends with I had my gay BFF, and we were married on Facebook together, and I was friends with drag queens and all this stuff. So we would go out to drag shows, and I've gone to gay clubs plenty. So when they were acting like a child performing in the gay club, it wasn't a strip club.
Let's give the background. Let's get the background real quick. This is an 8-year-old boy who's a drag queen, correct?
Yeah, so there is a child. Yeah, I don't even know. 8, could even be 10, but no older than that. But even if it were older than that, it would still be absolutely ridiculous and inappropriate.
We're talking about Desmond?
I think it was Desmond, yeah. So they had Desmond performing. Desmond is amazing, performing in a New York City gay club, performing drag, having different routines and costumes and stuff. And I don't know, something about Desmond always seems drugged up or something. It's great, what I mean?
Definitely.
There's something off about that kid. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah.
But and so I just see this child having this kind of drunky kind of dancing in a gay club. It's just bizarre. And yeah, the right was kind of going, child stripping at a whatever in New York City, and the left was it wasn't a strip club, it was a gay bar, and the parents were there, and everything was very, very professional, and everything was it was not appropriate, everything was great. And it was excuse me, I've been to those gay nightclubs in New York City. I know exactly where he was. I know exactly what goes on in those clubs. I've performed at those events. It is the most, gay clubs are insane. For example, if you can imagine, they don't have women's bathrooms because it's a gay club. So I have to use their bathroom. And it is the dirtiest shit you'll ever come across in your life. People are doing all sorts of drugs. People are hooking up. It is just
okay. Let's be very. Let's use our terminology here. They're not hooking up. They're back there having sex. All kinds of sex.
There's sex going on. They're very sexual creatures. They're men. They're men on men. So it's sex on sex on sex, So it's just crazy. And they're so to me, I didn't believe that it was a decent environment for a child to be in, because I've experienced it firsthand, and it's I can't really believe that these people that are drinking and wanting to have a good time that night are all holding out and not getting drunk and not doing any drugs and not doing anything inappropriate.
Right.
There's a child in the house.
No.
I really can't believe that every single person at a bar is no, guys, let's behave. There's a child in the house.
No.
They want to have a good time that night. There's wild stuff going on.
Yeah.
See, and then here's the thing, and then the right will call out stuff like that, and then we get attacked by the left for being obsessed with pedophilia.
Yeah.
Well, when you have a little boy doing a strip routine in a gay club, I'm sorry, what else am I supposed to think? And then, there was the one picture you showed in your video of the pretty much naked man hugging that child at the end of the performance.
Yep. Yeah, no, I know that drag queen as well, Violet, and used to. I mean, these all these people stab me in the back, so I kind of have no shame in being like, you know what? I knew them. Screw them. Oh, that's completely inappropriate. Yeah, no, and it's so crazy that they could stab me in the back and I'm excommunicated because of my beliefs because I voted for Trump. But it's totally fine that they can be naked around a child. No one's excommunicated for that.
Right.
But I'm excommunicated because of my beliefs.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, I mean,
great priority.
Yeah, the whole.
And again, if I was just strip naked and trying to hug a little girl, I'd be in jail.
Yeah. And that's exactly the thing when they act like it's not like sexual. It's like, okay.
To clarify, people, he's not saying that he wants to do that. Okay.
Yeah. No. Definitely.
You'll have someone clip that and get in trouble.
Yeah. Right.
No, I mean, and it's a boy. It's a young boy. One would consider a twink, and it's like gays love that shit. And, there is a decent, the left love to point fingers at like the church and say, oh, pedophilia in the church. It's like, okay, well, there's definitely a percent, of the population that has pedophilia everywhere. There's the percentage of teachers that have pedophilia. There's a percentage of in the church that have pedophilia. There's a percentage of every industry of every kind of thing that you can think of that will have pedophilia. There's a percentage of parents that are pedophile. You know what I mean? There's a percentage of everything in every field, but there's a bit of a bigger percentage of that in the gay community that are into pedophilia. Just if you talk the numbers out, but it's really taboo to say.
Yeah.
If you say that gays, have any percentage of pedophilia, an issue there, then you're homophobic.
That's hate speech.
But they can certainly point fingers at the church or any other thing and say there's pedophilia. But once you point fingers at the LGBT, then. I mean, ultimately there is.
I mean, that whole thing, the current state of the LGBT community just makes me think like it's just like a combination of Rec Room for a Dream and Party Monster.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, they even had Desmond, hanging out with, what's his name, Michael Alec. It's like a murderer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, Desmond is amazing. It's on YouTube with Michael Alec, who was. Are you familiar with the Michael Alec?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Party Monster. Yeah. And I know that scene too because I was part of the whole Club Kid scene in New York City. That's what I'm saying. I know the scene. I know these people. And the Club Kids in New York City was like the whole nightlife scene, hugely gay. I mean, there was like women like me, but again, we all dressed up. We all were very extravagant characters. And I think it was like the 80s, I think the late 80s or something, where, again, they're really big into drugs and stuff. And there was some fight over drugs and he butchered a guy and put him into like, I don't know, briefcase or something, suitcase or some shit. Yeah, I don't know. He chopped him up into pieces and everything, and he went to prison, a murderer. And then next thing you know, he's on YouTube with Desmond is Amazing. And what do you see in the background? There's a painting that says Rufinol.
Yeah, I saw that in your video. That too. That was like, holy shit. I mean, so Rufinol, for those who don't know, the date rape drug, GHB.
Roofie, yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Was it Ruhypnol? Rufinol? Ruhypnol? I had to look it up because I remember my editors at the time were like, I don't think that's how you say it, but I think it is because there's people that say it two different ways. It's Rufinol, or Ruhypnol. Yeah, it's different ways.
All I know is that's the shit they had in the first Hangover movie.
Oh wow, this is.
Oh right.
This has been fun.
Speaking of roofies and child drag queens, it's been fun, Martina.
Yeah, this has been a hell of a show. We've covered all kinds of stuff, huh?
No, it's like it's great. I mean, I've actually next week we're gonna be interviewing Laura Loomer. Okay. So that's going to be interesting. We got a 15-minute time slot for that, so that's going to be fun. But it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But I can definitely say out of like all the interviews that I've done on this podcast with all through different industries, sorry, James. I mean, you're now part of the podcast, so your interview doesn't count anymore.
I initially got interviewed for a column I wrote, and he invited me to be co-host.
Oh, nice.
It just kind of clicked, and the chemistry was good.
It's always good to have someone else to bounce off with. It always balances things out. Yeah.
I mean, great.
Well, Martina, so you got a minute here. Why don't you promote whatever it is you'd like to promote?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, I have a million different social medias. Because again, I have Lady Alchemy and Martina Markota. So it depends on the viewer what you're interested in. You could be interested in both, or you could be interested in one particular thing only. So if you like art and you like beauty and interesting art stuff, you can please follow on Twitter. It's Lady Alchemy 33. This is a really funny story actually that relates to this. Let me get sidetracked for a second.
Please.
Go for it.
So the burlesque girls, when they were like talking about me and saying what a Nazi I am and like, she's terrible, blah, blah, blah. I saw someone sent me screen caps of their, it's a Facebook like group, the burlesque group that they were talking about me in. And so someone sent me screen caps of it, and someone put, I just realized that Lady Alchemy is on Twitter is Lady Alchemy 33, and I can't help but notice that Hitler started his first concentration camp in 1933. What do you think, guys?
Oh, that's it. I can't believe we had a Nazi on our show this whole time, Kevin. We got duped.
No, but okay. So one thing I was trying to say, do you guys remember the monster can Christian lady?
Yeah.
It's that kind of shit. That like it. Yeah. The logo is 666. I was like,
yeah. Yep, exactly. And I was just kind of like, what the hell kind of thinking is that? It's like, yes, I love concentration camps so.
Oh, I think she dropped.
Sorry,
yep.
I lost you for a second. I must have pressed something.
It's okay.
But it's like, yes, I love. And I love how it like ended when I was like, yes, I love concentration camps. So
right, it just ended right there.
I was like, yeah, I love concentration camps so much that I had to put 33 on my Twitter handle because Hitler started his first concentration camp in 1933. And now it's like a running joke about like, yeah, because I love concentration camps. Like, who loves concentration camps that much? You know what I mean? And they make that their like Twitter handle. Absolutely ridiculous. And my little sister was over visiting me one time, and I had to work, so I was reading like off the teleprompter, and it was about what is it called? What's birth control pill? Contraception. So every time I saw contraception on the screen, I kept saying concentration. And then I was like, I keep saying concentration is contraception. And then I just kind of kept reading the script. And then I just like murmured to my sister, because, I love concentration camps so much. So it's like a joke now.
That's going to get cut out. You're going to be an evil person.
I know. It's terrible. But yeah, no, I actually have 33 because it's an esoteric number. 33, if you look it up, has a lot of associations esoterically and the occult and all that. 33 degree Mason. Jesus died at 33. 33 just like has this like number. It's a magical number. So that's why I have it, not because of concentration camps. But yeah, okay. Lady Alchemy 33. My Instagram is lady_alchemy. And on Twitter for Martina, it's Martina Markota. Instagram, Martina Markota. So all of those things. I mean, I'm on Telegram if you want to look for it. There's Parler. What else is there? I mean, there's Facebook pages. If you're on Facebook, it's always fun to have a page, stuff pop up. So yeah, all the above. Website, martinamarkota.com, lady-alchemy.com. So you can see a lot of my work.
We have a timeline on your comic release, or?
Yeah, my artist is trying to pop out the artwork ASAP. He was thinking August. I'm not sure if I trust him. He's an artist, so he probably probably be a little bit later.
Probably by the end of the year then.
Yeah. But yeah, we want to wrap it up and finish that. But we have the shirts and posters that send out ASAP. We have stickers and
What?
We have this magazine that we're about to do. I really wish I could show you guys some samples sometimes, but it's going to be a print magazine that has all sorts of amazing artists. If you're an artist yourself, please submit. If you do photography, fine arts, even if you write about fiction, any sort of the arts, you can always submit to the magazine. It's called Metacog. So if you look up Metacog magazine on Twitter, you can submit to that. Also Metacog magazine on Instagram. And we will be starting up a D Live channel, Metacog TV. So if you do music or any audio visual kind of stuff, like we'll be on a loop just playing that content 24/7. Just really awesome artsy people.
Nice.
Got to make
Nice.
Yeah,
What's Lady Alchemy's superpower?
Well, I mean, alchemy is like a superpower, because you can like harness the elements and manipulate things and transmute things, and there's also different spells and things that go on. So
So you're kind of a witch in this, then?
Yeah, definitely like just alchemy stuff.
Cool.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that comic book.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thanks for being on. Greatly appreciate it, Martina. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh,
beyond. Thanks, guys. Anytime, just hit me up. I'm always up really late, so I guess it really works out for your time.
What is it, like 4 o'clock in the morning for you right now?
Almost. Yeah.
Well, we'd be happy to have you back on again.
Okay, anytime.
Definitely. All right, catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome.
All right, that was good. So for all of you guys out there in the interwebs, that's going to be it for this evening. Thank you guys for hanging out. You guys in the chat.
Thank you for coming.
All right, we will see all of you next week, and this podcast will be up tomorrow, first thing, for all of you to see. Catch y'all later. Peace out.